Hey guys, it's KJ from The Scariest Movie Ever. And I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, but over the last few years there's been a lot of news concerning aliens and UFOs. This is a subject that I personally have been following for a good decade because I noticed the programming a long time ago. There is so much predictive programming in our movies and TV shows related to the UFOs and aliens, and most importantly to contact of some form. So now, as you know, we have Comet 3I Atlas floating around, and a lot of people are watching this. And this potentially could be a perfect setup for the introduction of the UFOs and aliens to the rest of the world. Now, I knew early on that this was a deception. I know many of you feel the same way. We're all watching this. As I said, we have Comet 3I Atlas coming in. It's currently behind the sun, they're saying, and that it won't even really be out to where we can see it for the next few months or so. So within the next few months, we have that possibility of Comet 3I Atlas perhaps being a massive psychological operation on the people. I've also noticed more talk in the public about how these UFOs and aliens could be something else, could be something spiritual or demonic, right? Now, this is the way I've seen them ever since I started watching. But I'm noticing more stories come out like this. J.D. Vance, the vice president, says that UFOs and aliens could be, quote, spiritual forces, as the VP vows to get to the bottom of the mystery in the skies. Now, he's not the only one. We've also seen people like Joe Rogan talking more and more about the UFOs and aliens. He has a massive platform, so millions of people are hearing about all of that there. And we also have Tucker Carlson, of all people, who, over the last year, there's several clips you can find where he's talking about this very thing, where UFOs and aliens are something more spiritual or demonic. And no matter how you feel about these guys, the fact remains that they have massive platforms, and when they talk about these things, millions of people are hearing it. Some of these people are hearing this for the first time, that UFOs and aliens could be connected to something spiritual. And that's a very, very important point to make. People need to understand that they're in for a massive delusion, for a massive deception, and that there is no such thing as these aliens and visitors and extraterrestrials from other planets. It's a ruse. You know, we're in the beast system. We're at the doorstep of tribulation. And we're already being hit every single day with massive amounts of psychological operations and mind control, and you name it, right? It's crazy out there right now. And it's just like operation on top of operation on top of operation. So, you know, people don't know what to do. They get distracted, and oftentimes they get so distracted just by all this crazy news, they don't want to pay attention anymore. They turn away. So it is important for us to make that distinction, specifically in these days, that this UFO alien thing is spiritual. These are trickster spirits, shape-shifting demonic entities. And speaking of the predictive programming, I just recently saw a new movie that, once again, is all about people being abducted, you know, by the aliens and UFOs. As I mentioned, I've been watching this massive psychological operation developing over the last good decade. And throughout all of those years, I've done videos, different videos, on predictive programming in movies and TV shows related to all types of things. But in this case, many videos specifically related to the UFOs and aliens. And in all of that time in doing these types of videos, there is something I've noticed. So oftentimes when you find an alien, UFO alien TV show or movie, that is a part of this propaganda. The way you can tell is you're looking for the devil's fingerprints. You know, oftentimes in these movies and TV shows that relate to the UFOs and aliens coming to the earth, you'll find Satan's fingerprints. We'll find the symbols that we find in so many of these movies and TV shows, underlying themes and more. And so this brings us to the movie Descendant. It's one of the latest UFO alien abduction type movies, Descendant. As I do with many of these movies and TV shows, you all find tons of things in there with the symbols and whatnot, but I don't share every single thing. It would make it much longer video. So I like to point out just some of the major ones, some of the major points interesting observations that I make with some of these movies and TV shows. And that applies here with Descendant. Because throughout this movie, like I said, there's multiple moments where we find Satan's fingerprints. Here's an example right here where, of course, we have Saturn, right? So he comes into the room and he goes straight for Saturn. He's fixing Saturn. Saturn, as we know, is Satan, and Saturn shows up in so many of these movies, TV shows, and corporate logos as well. Another common symbol that we find in these movies and TV shows is the eight-pointed star of Lucifer, also the eight-pointed star of Ishtar. But right here you can see the massive red door. These are the eight-pointed star of Lucifer, right? And you can see how they try to frame it up right here and make sure you've got that eight-pointed star in there. Now this one's really interesting and a little bit subtle, but watch as he's throwing this axe and it hits the wall. And look at where the axe actually hits. Look at the part of the wall it hits on, and you can see there's an upside-down cross there. You see that? Now, oftentimes, it's the Masons in the industry that are making these movies and putting these things in the movies and TV shows. So if that be the case, also throwing out the idea that both of these characters are wearing red and blue at this time as a possibility, right? It might be a sign, but red and blue are the two lodges of Freemasonry. So you've got the red and the blue, and then you've got him throwing the axe, and it hits the upside-down star, or sorry, the upside-down cross. And also, for the last year or so, we've been talking about the demon face syndrome, and I've shown a lot of examples where people's faces are changing out in public. Their eyes are shifting, so this is happening. I'm still finding videos that are showing these things. But even in this movie, they have that whole idea that there are people that walk amongst us that aren't quite human, with the black eyes, right, the monster eyes here. So once again, this idea that there's aliens, right, walking amongst us, but we know it's not aliens. But there you have this as well. When thinking of all of the recent UFO alien programming I'm seeing, so you find it all over the place. You might remember this from just a few years back. Within the last few years, U2, the band, did a performance at the Sphere, which is a very interesting place in itself. But the Sphere in Vegas, and of course it was all about the visitors, right? The orbs coming down. And while we're on that subject, one of the biggest pop stars in the world right now, and of course they're all falsely promoted and put up there, for their purposes. They're puppets, right? And they're used to further the beast system. This is what they do. They're children of their father, the devil. It's just like how we're children of the Most High. We're children of the King of the universe, of Jesus Christ, of the Lord of Lords, King of Kings. So while we're here in this world, we try our best to help the kingdom, right? Well, that's the reverse of what the enemy's doing. Props up these fakes, gives them influence over the people, right? But all of it in hopes to help build his kingdom and strengthen his kingdom here on earth. Anyway, I bring that up. The name is Sabrina Carpenter. And like I said, she's apparently one of the biggest pop stars in the world right now. But you can see right here, she's pushing her part, doing her part to push the alien agenda. And this was from some MTV awards show. We even had a movie come out a little while back, a few years back, called Battle Los Angeles, which is all about people of the world here having to fight the alien visitors coming in. So you might remember that one as well. And that's not to mention all of the commercials. You may have noticed, at least I have, over the last several years, especially during the Super Bowl, where these corporations, these companies are paying millions of dollars for these 30-second slots. But over the last few years, you're seeing more and more commercials to do with UFOs and aliens, especially in the Super Bowl. But here's a few examples. I really can't speak too much about the symbolism and the predictive programming around the aliens and the UFOs without mentioning a movie called Paul. And this movie, Paul, it came out, I guess, over 10 years ago. It's been a while now. But to me, this is one of the best examples of finding the devil's fingerprints on his propaganda. Throughout the movie Paul, you find the symbols, so I'm not really covering that right here, but it's really all throughout the movie. But really, the thing that stands out most is the message. It's what they do with this movie Paul. First and foremost, they turn Paul, the alien, the so-called gray alien, into a Jesus figure, right? While at the same time diminishing who Jesus is. And this is kind of the underlying theme throughout it, and I'll explain. First off, take a look at this right here, and this is this lady right here is supposed to be the Christian character. She's a Christian in the movie, but by the end of the movie, she loses her faith and gains faith in Paul, the alien. All right, big problem with that. But like I said, she's supposed to be the Christian, and of course, you see they have the all-seeing eye, the one eye, right here. That's just one of many throughout this. Like I said, this movie's filled with his fingerprints. But you got the all-seeing eye, but most importantly, it's the message on the shirt, which is incredibly blasphemous, showing Jesus taking the life of Darwin in a very, very brutal kind of a way. Okay, so this lets us know a little bit about how these filmmakers feel about Jesus. But like I said, by the end of the movie, she no longer believes. She believes in Paul because, like I said, throughout the movie, they give Paul these Jesus-like qualities. For instance, right here, he's able to bring things back to life. So he brings this bird back to life. And at one point also, he heals the Christian character, right? So here's the Christian character, and our Heavenly Father and Jesus is known to be the great healer, right? Supernatural healer. But they take that away and they give it to Paul, the alien. So he heals her eye, right, at one point in this. There's even a point, later on in the movie where he brings one of the characters back to life. So again, we've got this, it's a foul-mouthed, hard-partying alien Jesus is what we got. And they even make sure to punctuate this message, because at one point in the movie they actually have a brief discussion about, God and what aliens mean if they're real, to our Creator. You can check that out right here.
There's only one world, our world, the world that our God the Father created.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, my existence only disproves traditional notions of the Abrahamic Judeo-Christian God, as well as all one-world theology. That's all I meant.
All right, Mr. Richard Southern joins us for our interesting stories
The
chat.
incomparable Erica Natividad.
Oh, hello. Well, that's very kind. Okay, this first one combines two of your passions, Richard. UFOs and football.
Have I died and gone to heaven here? I mean, this is unbelievable. Martin Scorsese, Erica, has a commercial that's going to play during the Super Bowl. It's all about UFOs.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. It is
They knew that Richie was watching.
They knew I was watching. They wanted to draw the Richie viewer in. It's called Hello Down There, and it references, all the things that have been going on. It shows the U.S. House Oversight Committee's UFO hearings from last year, shows those U.S. Navy videos that were shot a few years ago, and the spot uses kind of a comedy element, shows, humans kind of taken over not by aliens, but by their phones. They're too distracted by their phones. They don't even realize the aliens are coming down.
That could happen, to be
How
honest.
true it might be.
Everybody's staring at their screens, so...
But
interesting, a Scorsese-directed commercial.
The whole UFO phenomenon has come mainstream when it's playing during the Super Bowl. So this is pretty big.
And speaking of the Vegas Sphere, they recently had a really, really big show there at the Vegas Sphere. And as you can see, here's some of the Some of the symbolism that was seen in the show, of course, there's your all-seeing eye. No surprise, it's like one of the main symbols of this beast system, but of course it's the alien agenda that we're concerned about here. So as you can see here, we've got the UFOs and the aliens, right? And the sphere. You can't look anywhere these days without finding a UFO or an alien. The programming is absolutely everywhere. So once again, the people will certainly be prepared once the show commences, the big show. So we're beginning to see many of the layers that they're placing one on top of another when it comes to this massive deception that is certainly on the way. What I find interesting, though, is that's not the only deception that's forming up. As you know, there's also a one-world style religion that's forming right before our very eyes in many different ways. For one, you may have heard of the Abrahamic family house, which is it's 3 different buildings. It's in Saudi Arabia. One is for Islam, one's for Judaism, and one is for, they say, Christianity, but it's Catholicism. And these are the 3 houses of worship together on the same property located in Saudi Arabia. But this is just one more of those signs that they're pulling all the religions together. I've covered the subject of Chrislam throughout the years. And if you haven't looked into that, please do. Not just through me, but through anybody else. But that is another example of the merging of the religions of Christianity and Islam. But all this is happening now, and I see signs of it all the time. We just had something happen at the White House recently, which is a really big sign of this, and accepting other religions, right? The whole one world religion thing. But we saw this with Trump, and he was celebrating Diwali, which is I believe it's a festival that typically it's the Hindus and the Sikhs celebrate, but he participated in this ritual here in the White House for Diwali, which, I've covered some things about that as well in the past. If you look into this, the Hindu religion specifically. But we recently had a massive monkey god statue built in Texas. If you guys remember this, it's another one I'd covered in the past, but a massive monkey statue. A false god, right? A fallen angel, false god, massive statue in Texas, of all places. And speaking of the false gods, the fallen angels and whatnot, especially related to Diwali and Hindus, this reminds me of the CERN Shiva. The statue of a Hindu cosmic dancer at CERN is a metaphor for modern physics. CERN, of course, an area of great interest for many of us. A bunch of, quote, scientists, as far as we know, trying to pierce the veil, right? Piercing into other dimensions, opening things up, and perhaps allowing things in. Speaking of which, that reminds me of something we heard from this young lady right here. She's been out there for a while. She's a whistleblower, and she's been talking about CERN specifically here lately. And check out this right here, what she has to say about CERN.
There's a door, a round door, like in the Stargate. And I don't know if it's as big. There is one picture that the person is quite small, actually, on it. You can go and look for those interested. Go and type CERN portal LHC door, and you will see. So in front of the door, they have a room. They probably have many doors, but they have a room, and they sit around the table. And I said, so, what happened? He said, well, an entity came from this portal. And it sat at the table. And I was like, but how is this what do you mean entity? Is it a person? Is it an alien? What color? Are they like us? And they couldn't answer anything. They said, no, it's not. We know. We just know it at CERN. And they cannot describe it, but they have it secondhand. It's not third, fourth. It's a very good friend who knows.
That's very.
I have to find something more because that's not enough.
Even she knows it's not enough. She is a scientist,
I said, can you have proof? And is there a proof that they bring, that they give something? There's some document. And they said that this entity the second time took a scarf. and left a scarf. I said, what type of scarf? And they don't know. They're not into the detail. They were really into the event and not the detail. And this entity left again. So that's the short scoop that started me trying to look for that. And
you can find the same lady we were just listening to in an interview with Maria Z. And she also expressed the same thing there, that some of these scientists claim that they've opened something in CERN and entities are coming out. I wanted to share this story with you, though, because I thought it was really interesting, especially considering what they said in the last story about a scarf, right? So this entity, it took a scarf and left a scarf, right? Well, this is actually going to connect to this story, which is a pretty wild one. This one came out maybe just a couple weeks ago. It was the Elf family of a missing child in Cholitica assures that evil forces had him. After hours of anguish and an intense search, a little child, Christian, 3 years old, was found alive on the 16th after he disappeared the day before. He was reported missing after he went out to play in the yard of his grandfather's house and didn't return, prompting the neighbors, rescuers, and family members to carry out a desperate search around him around the Tiscagua River, whose current had increased as a result of the heavy rains that keep several departments of the country on alert. Okay, but here's where we get into the interesting stuff. Hours later, Christian was found in the mountainous area near the river with a considerable head injury, but conscious and with stable vital signs. What caught his family's attention was that the boy was completely dry despite the constant rain in the area, and they said the duende took him, the family's version after the disappearance of a child in Choluteca. Although the authorities presumed that the minor was partially swept away by the current and managed to get out on his own, the family maintains another version that the El Duende kidnapped him. They say, we believe it was the elf, because where we live is a very desirable place for evil things. He took it from her. Similar cases have already happened, such as a girl who disappeared and returned years later. There's the video of them finding the boy. But down here it gets even more interesting. The little boy's grandmother also reinforced this belief to another media outlet, ensuring that similar events have occurred in the area and that they asked the spirit to return the child. We asked him to return it and that we would give him whatever he asked for. He always asks for a red scarf and a red shirt, he said. For his part, the minor's father thanked God for finding him alive. It was a miracle. We thought the worst. But as you see here, we heard in the last clip that the entity, for whatever reason, took a scarf and left a scarf. And now here, we have these people that believe that Duende, the elves, evil elves, took their child away. And they say we asked him to return it and that we would give him whatever he asked for. And he always asks for a red scarf and a red shirt. Very strange. There is another, I think, fascinating sign of the times. Speaking of Trump earlier, I wanted to share this one also, because this story just happened over this past week. So check this out. President Trump is building his own Arch of Triumph, is what they're calling it. But there's a whole history with these arches we'll get into in just a moment.
President Donald Trump is helping plan a new monument in Washington, D.C., a triumphal arch. A White House official says the president personally designed it to mark the nation's 250th anniversary next summer. Small models of the structure have been created resembling France's Arc de Triomphe.
As I mentioned, there's a whole history to these arches, and so we might as well call them what they really are and what they were originally intended for. These are arches of Baal. And these are all around the world. What is Palmyra's Arch of Triumph? Remember, that's what Trump's calling this one, the Arch of Triumph. Also called the Arch of Baal. The Romans built it sometime between 200 and 300 AD. Several religions used the idol's name because Baal means Lord. One example, Babylonians referred to Baal as Marduk. In the Bible, Israel turned to the pagan god Baal and away from their one true God. Throughout the Old Testament, people made offerings, prophesied on behalf of the false god, and erected altars to it. Many burned incense, worshipped, and served it religiously. They considered the god in charge of weather and fertility. Baal writes, also included sacrificing of the little ones and sex-type work and blatant sexual immorality. And here's a scripture about the Arch of Baal in the Bible. Jeremiah 19:4-6. For they have forsaken me and made this a place of foreign gods. They've burned incense in it to gods that neither they nor their ancestors nor the kings of Judah ever knew. And they have filled this place with the blood of the innocent. They've built the high places of Baal to burn their children in the fire as offerings to Baal. Something I did not command or mention, nor did it enter my mind. So beware, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when people will no longer call this place Topeth or the valley of Ben Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. Biblical kings and leaders worshipped the Baal deity, a heart idol. When worshippers entered a Baal temple, they passed under the arch on their way in and out. That's the most important part of this. So these arches, you see them again all over the place, all over the world in different locations. There's a history here, goes back to the Bible, goes back to the worship of the devil, right? Today's smaller arches are replicas of the original arch in Syria, destroyed in 2015. Companies in the UK, Dubai, and China recreate the reproduction using 3D printers. Many Christians see the arch as a spiritual gateway to invite people into its circle of influence. They also see the arch's resurgence as symbolic of the Antichrist's imminent arrival in Jerusalem to create a one-world system, one-world government. And here's some of the sightings. In London in 2016, they put one up. In New York City in 2016, Dubai 2017, Florence, Italy 2017, and Washington, D.C. 2018. Now we have a new Arch of Triumph, they say designed by Trump. But just remember the history here, the history. If an arch comes to your city, don't go near it or walk underneath it. Fascination with its history and its inherent evil spirit draws people into its presence. This is one more attempt by Satan to lure gullible Christians and others into his deadly path. Speculators estimate the arches will appear in thousands of cities. And let's not forget the Arch of Baal and its associated evil spirit symbolize current day happenings as in massive immorality, the sacrificing of the little ones, and of course the weather. So the idea of global warming, climate change is meant to create a fear so people obsess about the future. But for Christians, the Bible is clear about God's plan for the earth and what's going to transpire. So I wanted to share that. Very interesting. We see Trump participating in a ritual for Diwali, a fallen false god. And we see him building his own Arch of Triumph. And this goes back to the worship of Baal, right? And the sacrificing of the little ones. These are all signs. All of this connected with the alien show that's on the way and all of this. We put it all together and we can see what's forming. They do want this one world system. Who knows what they're going to actually use the alien agenda for, but I imagine a lot of people will potentially lose their faith, in the Lord, and they're going to fall for this delusion. So just right now, it's just most important, as most of you know, stay close to Jesus, stay in the Word, stay clear-minded, and, let's not fall for these traps, right? There's so many traps set for us in this system. Well, my friends, that concludes what I wanted to share with you in this video. And so as always, I hope and pray these videos can be an encouragement to you and a helper. But most importantly, please, if you haven't accepted that free gift of salvation, please do. Confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, you'll be saved. Accept that free gift of salvation, because that's what all this is about, man. The Bible is totally real and true. It's playing out right now in real time, and some of the scariest bits are on the way. You don't have to fear that, though, if you're in Christ. So please, cling close to Christ in these days if you already have Him. If you didn't already know, as you can see, there's so many layers of deception put upon the people in this world at all times, and the best way to really see through it, to see through this mirror darkly, is to have that Holy Spirit and to be filled with the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the wisdom you'll need and the discernment in these days, okay? So please choose wisely. And on that note, once again, you guys, I hope you're doing well out there. Take care of yourselves, okay? Don't be living in fear. Trust in Christ, okay? We're going to be all right. And we'll keep watching, all right? So until next time, take care of yourselves, guys, okay? And I'll see you in the next one.